Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here pretty quick at the Fabricator stage. We're going to talk about building your fabrication process and understanding your business through T-Dollar. Fabricator stage, right now we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to quickly, I'm Blake Christensen. Let's see if we can. So my name is Blake Christensen. My company's Valley View Granite out of northern Utah. I started countertops in Southern California in '97, had my company for about 21 years, and I'm excited today to talk about a little bit about how we've built our business. With me is Rick Phelps from Synchronous Solutions, and go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I got involved in the countertop industry back in the early 2000s when DuPont had a problem. They were constrained on how much corian they could produce by the fabricators. And so they did a nationwide search. They found 8 of us. One of them was the founder of Synchronous Solutions. Another was myself and a few others that you may know the names of. And we went out and worked with fabricators across the country to teach them how to expand their capacity inside the confines of their existing equipment and business and make a lot more money. And it was an extremely successful program for the fabricators and for us. And at that point in time, the fabricators spent all that money not to expand their coring operations, but to get into natural stone. So it was kind of a win-win-lose, but what the heck. So that's my background. I started back then, and I have my own consultancy and coaching business, and we focus primarily on the countertop industry.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how to look at your business from a blood perspective or an accounting perspective, maybe in a little bit different way than what most people are used to. And we're going to use throughput accounting or T-Dollars, which comes from the book The Goal by Elon, and I always say it's Radcliffe.
Ellie Goldratt.
Ellie Goldratt. Ellie Goldratt. Do you want to explain to us a little bit about, just in a quick down and dirty, what throughput accounting or T-Dollars are, Rick?
Yeah, let me tell you who Ellie Goldratt was. He's the author of the book The Goal. It's used in just about every business school. It's a great read. It's a crappy novel, but a great book that describes how to run a business. Goldratt was an Israeli physicist and got invited to help a friend of his sort out his fabrication problems, his manufacturing problems. And he went in as a physicist and applied physics, the thinking, the natural sciences, to the business. And he was able to explain the phenomena that he was seeing in the business, which was chaos. Anybody have a chaotic shop? Yeah, we know how to solve that. We solve it rather quickly. Because we understand the core science of flow. And throughput dollars actually was the root of it. When he was looking at businesses, he needed to understand how much money was coming into the business and what was constricting it. And he named it throughput dollars. For those of you who are of the accounting bent, it's very similar to contribution margin. But that's where throughput dollars came from. It's the money that stays in the business. It's the value add. If you buy a slab or you buy tiles and you install them, the difference between what you paid for the materials and the revenue that you receive for doing that job, that's your throughput dollars.
Yeah, so every business obviously needs money to survive. You know, that's the lifeblood of a business. We've got to bring money in. And oftentimes I hear, well, how much sales did you do last year? Well, we did 10 million, we did 15 million. Well, that's great. You know, you did 15 million, but what did you keep in the business? I sold a $5,000 job. Well, 5,000 was the job, but I spent 2,000 in materials and sinks. So really, 3,000 is the only portion of that job that I have influence over. And so it's basically the money that you keep, and 3,000 is what we control. If I sell $10 million, well, my throughput dollars might only be 6 or 7 or 8. And it's a simple way to say, $5,000 job, $3,000. Now I'm accountable for what I do with that $3,000, how I pay my labor, and everything, and that's what I can control. So that's why I want to monitor that and monitor that throughput dollar.
That's one of the reasons you want to monitor it.
Yes, yes.
The other reason you want to monitor it is the money that stays in the business needs to pay all your bills. Who here has a bucket of bills every month, right? Does that bucket change a lot? No, it's kind of stable, right? So you can figure out exactly what your bucket of bills are, not including material costs, and figure out exactly how much money needs to stay in the business every month and every day, right? And so if you monitor throughput dollars on a daily basis, you are monitoring whether or not you're making money each day or not. And if you can stack up 21 or 22 days of making money every day, you don't need to wait for your financial P&L to come out. You know exactly how much money you made. And so knowing the throughput dollars in the aggregate is really, really important and very simple to monitor and make sure that your business stays profitable every day.
And specifically knowing what number is required every day to operate. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct. And one of the things we often do with a client, even if we don't know what their capacity is and some of the other issues that we'll get into, we'll look at their financials and say, this is how much T dollars you need every day. Well, let's stress test this. Start there. Figure out how to get that many T dollars in, and T dollars are related to how many jobs that is, loosely related to square feet, and stress test the organization. Let's try and achieve that. And you'd be surprised how creative people get at getting their business able to produce throughput dollars. We typically get between 25 and 40% more throughput through a business simply by teaching them how to manage it and monitor it and go for it.
So, and again, just to mention, as you're, I hear a lot of people shopping for softwares or ERPs or ways to manage their business, and a lot of them talk about this, as a tool that's built into that, and that's why we mention it here, is because they're building that in so that you can monitor it, so you can schedule it, so you can look at it.
And the reason they're building it in is the founder of Synchronous Solutions, Ed Hill, pounded it into
Correct.
the fabricators for decades, literally. And finally, Action Flow, Stone App, SPS, all have implemented it. And we work really closely with those companies to make sure they get it right and to keep pushing the envelope.
Yep, perfect. So now we're gonna look at operating expenses and net profit. OE is the operating expenses or all the cost of doing business. Net profit equals throughput minus operating expenses. So simply $5,000 job, $3,000 I keep, $2,500 to execute it. My net profit is $500. Pretty simple way to look at it. And again, do you know how much you need of throughput dollars? What is your operating expenses so that I know how much throughput dollars I need every day to meet my operating expenses and my desired net profit? And is that something you plan for and you schedule to and you sell to and and is that a drumbeat in your business?
Yeah, so profits. Profit is usually stated in terms of dollars or percentages. But if you look at the business more holistically through time, profit is a rate, right? Everything about your business is flow. You've got dollars flowing in and you've got dollars flowing out. And the difference in that flow rate is whether or not you make profit. So if your throughput rate is 10,000 and your operating expense outgo rate is 11,000, you're losing $1,000 a day, right? That's the only measure of profitability that matters. So when we look at margins on jobs and profit margins, it's a misnomer. It's not really telling you whether or not a job is profitable or not. Because you can have a very high profitable job that flows at a very slow rate and will actually drag your company down. So it's one of the reasons we teach this.
Yep. And it's not unless you start peeling back that onion do you realize that and recognize it.
Yep.
So this is just a quick down and dirty of reporting on that, and just a way to, are you reporting on that every day? How many throughput dollars we did for the day? and did we meet our goals, and did we meet that desired threshold that Rick is talking about?
Right, and we'll monitor this on a daily basis, we'll consolidate on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, and annual basis. Because knowing the flow rate of T dollars is the lifeblood of your business. And if you don't know it, you don't know how you're doing.
So now we're going to get into the manufacturing side of it, and creating an engine. And this is actually just a quick down and dirty diagram of what's supposed to happen every day in a fabrication. This is, and again, this may be customizable. This is obviously customizable to what your processes are. But this is a way to tell us, okay, here is our manufacturing engine. Here's our pipeline. Here's on day 1, this has to happen. On day 2, this has to happen. On day 3, this has to happen. Now we're going to decide when is it and where do we want to measure that throughput dollar. When does the cash register ring?
Down and dirty. I think that's a beautiful diagram.
Yes. So yes, of course it is. It's a wonderful diagram because Rick helped me create this.
That's right. There's a lot in this diagram. If you look at,
I don't have a point yet.
yeah. So if you look at, you notice day 4 there, the yellow with the black bar above it. That symbolizes the fact that cut in this particular business is the constraint, and this is where science comes in. How many weakest links are there in a chain? Weakest links in a chain. 1, right? And every production process, every business process is a chain of operations, a chain of process. Doesn't matter if it's a sales process or a production process. One process works, hands it to the next, hands it to the next, and there's one weakest link. And understanding that weakest link allows you to focus your improvement efforts. And so in this particular case, that process limits the flow rate of T dollars. And so how many places do you need to measure the flow rate of T dollars? 1. That's a massive simplification of your business, right? How many places in your business do you need to understand the flow rate of T dollars for a job at? 1. You can actually assess the profitability of a job at quoting if you understand how much constraint capacity it consumes. And we teach our clients how to do that, and we're teaching the software vendors how to integrate that into their software.
Exactly, and just to expand a little bit on this, this is something that we live by every day, or our company lives by every day. We have a zone, that we've labeled dark green zone, light green zone, ultra light green zone, or I don't know what it is, but and then we have accountabilities for that. So everyone is accountable for all the jobs that are ultimately we're trying to hit that drumbeat. And if I template a job on Monday, that means that Tuesday the post template needs to be done. Wednesday it needs to be ready and programmed, ready for fab. Thursday this needs to happen, and everyone's accountable for that zone, and they come to a meeting and they report on that every day and say, hey, it is done or it's off track. And the whole goal is to get this drumbeat to where we're hitting that throughput dollar every day and knowing whether or not today was a win or whether or not today was a fail, basically, because we didn't hit that number. Now, if we don't schedule it that way, we're never going to template it that way. We're never going to cut it that way. So are we scheduling to that throughput dollar and helping eliminate some of that chaos and knowing that we're setting our team up in production for success?
Yep. So if you look at this diagram, the day 4 cut, stage material cut, laminate, miter, that operation dictates how fast work can flow through the shop. And so you release, prior to template there in this diagram, you release at that rate. So you would template at the rate that you're going to cut, which would then determine the rate at which you're going to install. So if that's the production process, what is sales job? Anybody? How many T dollars do they need to quote and turn into jobs every day or on average every day? That many, right? And so we can go backwards through this process and actually define the metrics that tell you whether or not the sales process and the constraint in the sales process is doing what they need to do to make sure this engine runs as fast and as efficiently as it possibly can. And so here's where we start getting into the design of metrics and the cascading of metrics down to how you connect everybody to the business making money, which was the prior subject.
And are your salespeople even focused on the T dollar? You know, or are they focused on the gross sale? Hey, I just sold you a $5 million or a $100,000 job. Well, okay, how much does that contribute to the throughput? You know, that $100,000 job might be a good job, it might not, depending on the constraint or the throughput that adds to the pipeline.
That's exactly true.
So, anyways, any questions on this for Rick before we move on to the next slide? Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about the process, you know, and now we get into the bricks that make up the wall, and a little bit about, you know, the front end. The front end, the middle, and the back end. You know, what is your sales process? How do you fill up that pipeline, fill up that buffer zone, for lack of a better word, so that you know we have so many T dollars that are waiting to execute so that I'm good for the next 2 months? You know, are you looking at that volume of work that's ready to execute so that you can know that I can pay my bills that are going to be X, that I can maintain the net profit that I want to maintain. So the sales process and the front end is where it begins. And I know in my experience and in my journey, I drastically underestimated the front end. Is that a fair statement? You know,
Everybody does. I drastically underestimated the front end of my business.
I had no idea how many labor hours and how many people it would take to get a job from sold, perfect PO, processed, ready to fabricate. You know, that is a huge. We think of, our business is all these wonderful, amazing saws and routers and all this equipment in the shop space. That's the easy part. You know, the front end, getting it a perfect PO is where the magic happens. That's a huge underestimated component.
Yeah, and another thing to think about the sales end. How many folks are having a rough time in the current economy? Anybody? Business down? It seems to be coming back right now, but for several months, a lot of our clients were limited on how much could go through the shop. When that's true, there's a huge opportunity for your business. Downturns are where businesses make their money, and it has to do with how you approach sales. So when you have capacity at your constraint and you need T dollars, you have the opportunity to make mafia deals with the clients you want to get into. And those of you who don't do that are missing one of the best opportunities that the economy can possibly give you, and that's a downturn.
Exactly. It's an opportunity, isn't it? To capture market share, to get things done right so that you're actually the ones that are emerging a better, stronger organization. So in the front end, we created what's called a buyer's guide, and I see more companies using this, and it's a document. We have it live on our website. We have it live also in a printed material, and that becomes the encyclopedia. You know, there's 10 steps in there that says on step 1, here's what I need, you know, for decisions and it basically is designed to take a client from 0 decisions to perfect PO. I can also, it really is designed to train our employees. We can take a brand new hire, hand them a buyer's guide, and they can flip through that and walk through with Sally homeowner. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. Here's pictures of what these types of sinks look like. Here's pictures of what these types of cooktops look like. Pictures of your faucet holes. Pictures of what these radius corners are going to look like. Everything that you can, you know, what to expect on template day. Pictures of installers. Here's what your checklist as a client. Here's what to expect on install day. Here's how to answer the question, when can you install? Well, the answer is we're 7 days out from when we template. When can you make your decisions? You know, because we have that engine, we can confidently say, put the monkey on their back and say, hey, well, we can't install until you decide what sink you want. We can't even, well, just send a templater anyways. No, we're not even going to send a templater until you decide what sink you want. How many of us send templaters out and they're detectives? And we set them up for failure because we don't have all the perfect PO, we don't have all the decisions decided first. I mean, that little thing right there, and we've asked a templater now to template 5 jobs and come up with 14 decisions that should have been made 2 months ago. That happens all the time. And so getting the process to where, and again, this is what we adopted, is sales is responsible for 2 things: perfect PO and the date that they're going to be ready to template. They hand that off to a project coordinator, and all they're doing is monitoring those. They QC it, make sure that, yep, we got everything, including down to the faucet model numbers with PDFs attached to the job that are that faucet, the cooktop model numbers, and then they QC that, and then they monitor the dates. And we'll have a project coordinator. It's not uncommon for them to have 1,100 jobs on their dashboard, all sorted by date, and all they're doing is calling, making sure that that's still a good date. And if it's not, they push it forward. But setting them up for success, material procurement, making sure that, hey, we're going to have that material here on that date, ready to template, and then a post-template check. After we do a job site visit, you're going to have that project coordinator look at what the field measurements and look at what was estimated and make an adjustment. Hundreds of thousands of dollars are made up in those post-template checks every year, just by verifying, hey, we bid a 48-inch cabinet, and we installed the 48-inch cabinet. And when that question comes up, 48-inch cabinet, but we measured a 70-inch cabinet. It's very easy if those drawings are very black and white because they have a quote with that drawing on it. Anything else on the front end?
So I would say that if anyone who was a holdover from our first presentation, the work of designing all these systems, that's the work of the sales manager, right? And so when you're looking at a sales manager, you're looking for the capability to think and design and build systems. If you don't have that capability, these systems don't get built. And if these systems don't get built, you have chaos.
And just like you said in the last session, the work of a salesman or salesperson is much less. They're not tasked with designing this. They're tasked with executing it. And then, another thing that might be useful is we've designed a system that has 2 types of sales commissions. One commission for the relationship and one commission for the perfect PO. And that way, and you can have an outside salesperson that's responsible for the relationship, but they don't have to do all the work of making all the decisions. We turn that over to an inside salesperson. Or an outside person can choose to get the commission on both if they want to do the work and take the time for that perfect PO. So, go ahead.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So when you are sales constrained, as opposed to physically constrained in the plant, it's the salesperson's time that you're trying to optimize. If they're the constraint, the ability to build relationships and bring in new business to the organization, if that's the salesperson's job, and I believe that is the outside salesperson's job, then, and they're good at building relationships, what's the odds that you're going to find a person who's really good with relationships and really good with the fine details? Pretty nil, right? And so you want to do, you want to segregate the work. You want to design and structure the work so that people are doing what they're good at. A person who's good at going out and creating relationships is likely not good at the details, so you create a handoff. You create a system that allows them to focus on meeting new people, meeting new clients, schmoozing the relationships or whatever, and then hand off the information to somebody who's good with the details.
Yep. Then you have the CAD and programming. Once it's ready for front end, now becomes your templating, your pictures of your job site. You're going to capture the data, and the whole purpose of this is to get it ready for fab. And this whole team is going to go through the next workflow, the next stage. And again, now we're getting more straightforward. More, hey, this is we're templating this, and it's going straightforward. We already talked a little bit about making sure that your templaters are not detectives. That they're walking onto a job site, and all the decisions are made completely. Taking pictures of a job site, that's super important. Getting that shop drawing, whether we're photo nesting, labeling those pieces, very, very important. Again, not only are we an organization that measures the performance of a team, we want to measure how that team is impacting the next department, who they're handing that job off to. Because this industry is extremely dependent on us doing our job with excellence so that we can pass it to the next team so that they can do their job with excellence.
It's always at the interface where the issues come in.
Yep. Quickly, some templating, drafting, and programming. Fabrication, this is where you're going to stage your material, you're going to cut it, route it, polish it, inspect it, and load it. And again, these are just fairly generic workflows that need to be done. But the whole purpose is to get these to where people are accountable, and on day 2, these 2 things happen. Day 3, these things happen. Day 4, these things happen. And when we get off that schedule, now we've got an issue. We got to raise the red flag. Making this very visual. I've seen shops that will use color markers and say, hey, here's the ones that need to be routed on Tuesday, they get a red flag. Or the ones that need to be distributed on Thursday, they get a, and then you can see all the red flags and everyone knows exactly what the priority is and what needs to be done by the end of the day.
From a structure standpoint, there are lots of constraints in the business. There are always 2 that you really need to manage. One, in the production process, and as a business owner, you're going to want to think about, where do I want my physical constraint to be? If you choose staging material, you're probably crazy, right? You don't want to have a constraint in your business that's that simple. It's probably where your equipment is. It's either in cutting or routing, right? And so that becomes a design decision that has ripple effects all the way through your business in terms of how you design your metrics, how do you design your roles and accountabilities, how you design your structure of your organization. So that is one key decision to make. Where is your constraint going to be to maximize your return on your investment in your business? The second constraint, because you never want this constraint to be actually the physical constraint of the business, you want to be, soon as sales has enough to fill it, you want to elevate it. So you got the sales constraint. How do you maximize the system that is sales? And it's always a seesaw.
And it's amazing. If you can imagine, an hourglass or imagine, beads or even a vein and the throughput dollars going through that, where is the smallest point in that? Where's that constraint? And it's when you start looking at your entire process from front end, sales, yes, I might be able to cut 100,000 T-dollars a day, but can I sell 100,000 T-dollars a day? Can I route 100,000? And when you're looking at that from a capacity perspective, that's a really powerful. That's the essence of what we're trying to do, is to find that constraint, find that bottleneck, and make sure that we're maximizing that.
When your business matures and it is as large as you intend to get it, the story changes. And now all of a sudden it's optimizing end to end. And the role of sales is not to bring in just T-dollars, it's to bring in the right T-dollars, the ones that flow the fastest through the constraint. And that's huge.
We could spend 3 days just talking on that right there, because that's a whole other level of complexity and importance, because you may not want miter jobs. You may not want, or you may want them because they're more valuable, because now you're talking about building to the constraint and a T-dollar that builds to that constraint. Okay, installation. Very, very important aspect, obviously, of the wheel. The pre-install checklist, job site checklist, dealing with variables, customers' acceptance of payment, and then asking for the payment. Any tips here as you've seen?
Oh, yeah. Getting them prepared and trained and equipped to have all of that is really, really the essence of this is your final opportunity to impress your clients, right? And we often talk with our clients about setting the business up to make heroes of the installers. So that they go in, everything's right, they go in, and the customers are just so happy they give you that 5-star review that you can leverage. So installation and getting them completely equipped to dazzle and amaze and delight the customers is really critical to your business.
And on that note, do we look at our installers as relationship holders? I mean, they are essentially holding that relationship with the customer. You know, how have we set them up? What tools have we given them? Did they get a call saying, hey, from the installer 3 days prior to install, saying, hey, your job is going to be done in fabrication next Wednesday. We're planning on coming on Thursday. Is that okay? You know, are we giving them the tools to make sure that they're accountable and the stewardship of that relationship is there? One of the things that you know I heard is an exit packet, you know, so that the installer has a packet that has the customer's name, the name of their material, how to take care of it. You know, does the installer know to take a picture of that packet in the customer's hand or on the client's counter? You know, is there a sticker on that packet? You know, I've heard it said that they use a green sticker and a red sticker, and a green sticker means that installer is going to collect money. Red sticker means that it's going to be paid for another account. Just a little indicator that installer, a tool, a process that was set up so that installer is set up for success. So that they see that green sticker, hey, I've got to get my credit card processor out and collect a check from this customer. You know, or they see, it might be that, hey, this customer, we want to ask for a review, and we're going to give them a Google link to ask for a review. We're going to take pictures, and now we're going to post their picture and get a waiver from them saying, yes, I can post your picture and use it for social media. You know, all those little things are engineered in the process and then given to your team members as tools to set them up for success.
One of the best practices one of our clients did, they actually, the day before the install, the client gets a picture of the installer and a link to that installer's sub-web page, which has all the 5-star and other reviews of that installer. So right off the bat, they're teed up to believe that this is going to be a really successful experience.
And then does that installer get a certificate of achievement for having
Absolutely.
The most 5-star reviews?
They get rewarded.
And that's their bragging right with the other install teams. You know, what a great way to promote installation, customer satisfaction.
It's really something when you open up and you see your installer has 277 5-star reviews in the last 2 years, right?
That's amazing. That's awesome. Okay, closing a job, post-install audit. You know, we're doing a post-template audit? Are we doing a post-install audit? You know, are we doing an audit of our clients' expectations, their likelihood to refer? Do we have a sign-off sheet saying, yes, this job is complete, and we've gone through this checklist with the customer saying, I've checked the seam, it looks great. I've checked the cleanliness of the job, it looks great. The sink looks great. The silicone looks great. Their name is signed off, and now we can actually close the job and send them the bill. Very, very important. Scorecard. So we're going to, oops, I guess that was it.
I think you went all the way to the end.
I know, but is it?
Off the presentation. No.
Can you give us the last slide? So, anyways, all these things are important. All these things are designed to measure that blood that goes through the company, that T dollar, that throughput dollar. And yeah, that's, we talk about the scorecard, and this is basically, you know, we talk about measuring those 5-star reviews, measuring, you know, does everyone accountable to a number? Is everyone accountable to their team numbers, their individual numbers, and are they meaningful? So these are some sales and marketing measurables, operations measurables, and finance measurables. And again, we are out of time right now. We got to make room for the next. But please email these presentations are available on the Coverings website, or feel free to email myself or Rick, and we can get you a copy of the presentation or any more information. But thank you very much. Any quick questions before we close? Thank you very much. Next
Thank
session.
you all.
The next session is going to be here at 12 o'clock, rework reduction, and talking about streamlining your installation efficiency. And then at 1 o'clock, very, very important, silica safety is going to be talked about at 1 o'clock. Appreciate it and enjoy the show.